fantastic find. I'm wrapped with this tree. It's one of my best fruit trees. I know it's going to grow into a ripper, and because it's so good, I'm going to grow some more from seed and plant them around the property. G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and here I am in our front yard standing next to this magnificent fruit tree. It's called a Davidson Plum, and it's a rainforest type plant, and that's why we're growing it underneath the sort of semi-shade of this Moreton Bay fig, because it likes those conditions, and I'll talk a bit more about that later, but it's well adapted to shade conditions by its long spindly stem, and then its sort of bushy top. Almost looks like a person's radical haircut, don't you reckon? But it's a really cool looking plant, and it's a plum tree, but not a plum tree like you would expect or like you'd know from the shops, although the plums and the fruit that it produces is really very similar. In fact, they look almost identical to one of those small date plums. About the same size, the fruit's about a similar texture to a plum, and even looks like a red plum inside. The really interesting thing about this tree is how it grows its fruit, and in fact I think it's a real advantage. It grows its fruit along the stem of the plant or the trunk of the tree. Now these trees can get 10 or so meters high. They can get really tall, and then the fruit will span from a meter off the ground all the way up to the top of the canopy. And because it fruits on the trunk of the plant, I find it just so easy to harvest. And also when the fruit actually ripens and falls from the tree, it don't go too far, I can tell you. It just falls around the base of the plant, because obviously it's just got to fall straight down from the trunk. So they're easy to gather. Our tree only started fruiting in the last 12 months. You really do want this fruit to ripen on the tree and give it every chance it can possibly get to draw as much sugars as possible, because the fruit really is quite sour to eat. But don't let the sourness of this fruit put you off, because like other native trees, you might not be in Australia. You might have other native varieties of fruiting trees that are able to be eaten but aren't as palatable as you would like, or aren't as sweet as the standard supermarket fruits that we know. Just like this one, because you can always turn any negative aspects of these types of fruits into positives. And the other positives for this fruit is that the animals don't tend to like it because it is rather sour. So the possums have stayed away from it, and I know there's possums living in this tree, and they grab all our other nectarines and plums and peaches if I don't net them, and they are growing beside us here. They go very quick. So do the birds grab them as well. There's plenty of birds around here, I can tell you. I don't have to net it, I don't have to worry about it. And the other thing is, we have the Mediterranean and the Queensland fruit fly here. And at the moment, I haven't seen any sign of fruit fly strike or maggots in the fruit. I don't know if I've been lucky, but it seems like the fruits could be immune to fruit fly strike as well, which is another added bonus. So they don't need to be bagged to prevent the fruit fly from stinging the fruit and laying a maggot inside. So there's another bonus. At the end of the day though, you are wondering, can the fruit just be plucked off the tree and eaten, of course when ripe, or picked off the ground when ripe and eaten? And the answer is yes, and they don't taste too bad. I'll do a taste test soon. I have one ready down here, but primarily what people do use the fruit from this tree for is for making jams, just like you would other tart type foods. And what they remind me of is rosella, how that's quite tart to be eaten straight, and even rhubarb. Eating rhubarb freshly boiled up or cooked up is very tart, isn't it? So people do like to add some type of sweetener with it. Well, this is one of those types of foods. extremely high in antioxidants. But yes, for some people it's difficult to eat freshly picked. Now, I haven't made it into a jam yet or even made a juice from the fruit, but I have read and heard that it makes an excellent jam and also a terrific healthy juice. Before I give this a taste test, just a few last things about growing this tree. They grow fairly fast in the right conditions. They do like a warm subtropical type climate. They do make a fairly good indoor plant if you've got it in a nice little warm location, because yeah, it does grow well in part shade. The tree isn't spiky at all. It looks a little spiky, but when you touch it, it's not. And in spring, it has some nice contrasting flushes of red growth that springs out from the top of the tree. In Australia, these trees are quite popular as a bush tucker food and easy to buy on places like eBay. And the reason they're easy to buy is because they strike rather easy from the seeds. There's 2 seeds in the fruit, usually 2 flat seeds, and if the seed is fairly fresh, put it in some potting mix and they'll strike rather quickly and grow very fast. All right, so let's finally get into a taste test. I have one here. This is just newly picked from the tree, and it's quite soft. It's not mushy soft, it's still a little firm, but it's definitely ripe. Look at the beautiful blue colour. But what's even better is inside this. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, it's quite juicy. It's got a texture like a plum, like a nice ripe plum. And it tastes like, you know, if you've got kids that like those sour lollies, what do they call them, the warheads or something? It tastes a bit like that, except this is a lot better for you because it's not just a bit of sugar in sour stuff or whatever. But look at the redness. I quite like the taste of it, but I don't reckon many people would. But then I'm a bit weird. I like salted plums and sour food. So yeah, I would say best used in a jam or a topping or a syrup or a cordial, just like you would rosella, like I said, or rhubarb or things like that. But yeah, fantastic find. I'm wrapped with this tree. It's one of my best fruit trees. I know it's going to grow into a ripper, and because it's so good, I'm going to grow some more from seed and plant them around the property. Perhaps maybe a row here underneath the shade of this Moreton Bay fig, and get, you know, several of them together. They might even cross-pollinate and grow even better. But yeah, there you go. We'll get a seed out. There's a seed. Not that big, about a fingernail size, but they're flat. I have tried some other things. I've tried dehydrating it in quarters, and they dehydrate down really tiny, and when you eat it, it doesn't concentrate the sugars like it does in other fruits. It actually concentrates the sourness. So I think it's twice as sour if you're chewing on a dehydrated one of these, but they do dehydrate down quite well. And the other thing that I've noticed, if you sit them on the kitchen bench, they will slowly prune down. So that could be another way to perhaps eat them. But you'd have to de-seed them, of course. Or no, you could just eat them like a prune, I guess. Maybe have it on your cereal with a little bit of sugar. That could help dissipate the tartness or the sourness. But at the end of the day, you might just like them fresh like this, like I do. So there you have it, the Davidson Plum, one of the most weirdest fruit trees I have in our garden, and one of my now most favourite trees to grow and favourite fruit to eat. Thanks a lot for watching. If you liked the video, give it a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now. But that's a rush. Oh, I think I'll keep that and let's grow another one.